How's it going, everyone? This is Let's Talk. I'm JMO, and we are here today with Debora Macedo, a friend of mine and coworker. How's it
Hi,
going, Deborah?
Jimmy. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Kind of in a hangover. You already know that, but it's okay.
Uh, it happens, we like to
Yeah,
have a good time here. So,
yeah.
so why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about where you're from? You're an immigrant to the U.S. and you've been all over the world. So, why don't you start off with that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm from Brazil. I actually born in one of states that is in the center of the country, and I moved to go to another city to go to college. Then I went back. I have a BA in social sciences, a master's in sociology, and in political science. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I lived in France for 2 years. So that's when, well, I started learning French in college. Then I moved to France. I travel around South America, like Peru, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and around. I also traveled to Cuba. And when I lived in France, I had a chance to travel around. So Germany, Spain, Portugal, England, around. I went to Turkey and Greece, Italy, around. And finally, I ended up here in the US last year because my partner is doing his PhD at UMass Amherst. And I started working in the Amherst Public Schools last year. And now I'm back. I mean, now that we're back in person, I'm also back working with kids, ELL kids, like English beginners, basically. And I'm also working with Jimmy
Yeah.
as a disinfectant.
As a disinfectant, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's kind of, it is the job that we have to disinfect things. So
pretty much. We disinfect the dorms and premise of Amherst College as custodians and take out trash. So very
yeah,
prestigious job for what we have accomplished for schooling.
that's true. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
also, I would like to add that I'm 31, so I'm kind of old. I know I don't look like, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, like honestly, it's pretty cool that you're here and able to help kids in the school system, unlike many people, because you know what would you say, 4 or 5 different languages?
Yeah, I speak 4 languages.
Uh, for the viewers, like what languages do you speak?
Well, Portuguese is my native language, Spanish, French, and English. Still learning.
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. That's why I think I'm useful in the schools. Like we have a lot of kids from different countries, from different areas and different backgrounds, and it's kind of nice to speak their language, so and have like the chance to communicate and and show them it's a good thing to speak several languages, even though if you're still learning English, like it's very nice thing as a kid to speak different languages.
Yeah, and it's crazy how people don't really realize the dynamics that helps bring to a situation when you speak to someone in their native language.
Yeah.
I showed you that guy, I forget his name. There's this guy on YouTube that speaks something like he's a language teacher and self-taught. He learns through books and just having conversations with people.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, you show me that video. It's awesome. And
yeah,
people is like, you really speak Korean? Like
yeah. He speaks like Korean, Cantonese, Mandarin. Uh, what are some of the African,
Russian.
Russian? There was Vietnamese. He does a lot of Asia and African languages too. Not let alone, I'm pretty sure he also speaks Spanish, and obviously English is his first language. And people are just so amazed that they're like, "You're American and you've never been here, but you speak it in the perfect dialect." And he's just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." He even speaks Zulu and some of the other, like, because there's so many
Dialect.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw the video. I mean, the guy is, yeah, pretty smart. So that I mean, I learned because I lived on this country. So, and I also study it in college and in school. So I don't think I would like self study a language like this. It's too much.
Yeah,
But
I can only
maybe
imagine
one
how
day.
hard. Well,
But yeah, you're right. I mean, when you approach kids, especially, and they feel a little bad sometimes because they don't speak English very good, and you approach and you speak their language, they're like super happy and makes things very easier for them
yeah.
to learn math and science and the other stuff they also need to learn.
Even just having that connection out of your family too makes like a huge deal for them.
That's true.
Because that's like another friend they have.
Yeah, someone they can talk about anything that will understand and listen to them and respond.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Did
really nice.
did you pick up like a lot from the different cultures of like not even just because I know South America is like got a lot of different cultures like
Mhm.
any other continent, but going to all the different countries, did you like pick up anything like you found like super interesting about certain places? Like I know there's a lot of rural farmers in Chile that are like really just out in the mountains doing their own thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, many things. I mean, but basically, I've been in the West, so like culture is not that different. For instance, like if I go to Japan or Russia or China, I don't know. I think it would be more different. We can like find differences about it. But it's really interesting when you are learning the language and the culture at the same time, because you can pick like why the language is like this by leaving the culture. For instance, like French, they don't say something straight away. They say it's like you want to say something's ugly, they say like it's not pretty, or so this is the kind of the thing that you learn that they use in the language. That's because it's based on their culture. But yeah, I had many surprises, and yeah, I'm still learning. I mean, the other day I told you, I said like I say toilet all the time, and I need to go to the toilet, and where's the toilet? And people, it's like here in the US, because in England it's not like this, or I don't know in Ireland, but it's just you can say toilet and people will say like yeah, toilet, or toilette, or toilette. And here I realize that people don't talk about toilet or what they do in the toilet. And for me, so weird because we do it all the time. And like,
Oh
I'm going to
yeah,
pee, so we say
yeah.
that.
It is kind of a weird dynamic that we fall into. It's almost like a taboo to talk about it. I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of like throwing off because usually people say, "Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom," or "Oh, I gotta use the restroom." Or if you're with your friends, you say some egregious thing like just because it's funny,
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's kind of like a taboo. I think that's interesting though. It's an interesting dynamic of the U.S. that I would have never really noticed. Sorry, my dog's like freaking out outside right now.
He wants to participate. Yeah.
Yeah. But what is he barking? I'm not sure. Anyways, but yeah, there's like after talking to you, it's like there's certain dynamics about the U.S. that I would never have even noticed if someone like said it that way. And like it, once you like kind of take a step back and you look, you're just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, at least the difference between France and the US, sex, for instance, talking about sex is more a taboo here.
Mhm.
Like, I think in Brazil as well is also a taboo. I mean, I only talk about sex with my close friends. So, but we say like words that here sometimes when I talk to you, you're like, I can't believe she said that. I can see in your faces like, and it's something that in France people talk about it like drinking
Freely.
water, you know? It's like something really not a taboo. At least people I met there. So it's something that like, and if a person likes you and wants to hang out with you or hook up, they would just say, like, text you and say, hey, I want to meet you. Let's go for dinner and kiss and sex, whatever. And
And it's just like really out in the open, like it's like whatever.
yeah, I think they're, in that sense, they're more direct, like
Oh yeah.
not in the other senses, but
Oh
in
yeah.
that sense, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. That's definitely different. I don't know really why it is a taboo in the U.S. I think the individualist look that the U.S. has, like, oh, we're all individuals. We're holding up these certain morals that we think society holds to us and all that. I mean, I'm a victim of it. I don't know if you could call it victim, but it's like the morals you hold are definitely very different than other countries where it's like more open like that. It almost seems like uncomfortable because you're like taught that way as you grow up.
Yeah, yeah, it can be.
Not
I
to
think it's
mention there's like
related.
a whole counterculture that in the 1960s really kind of toted that whole peace, love, and openness to like everything, and kind of completely dismissed the counter or the regular culture's norms in terms of that.
Yeah, I think we have changes during the timeline of our lives, but yeah, basically, I mean, and also I'm generalizing it, so
Yeah.
kind of my perspective. Maybe if I had like another group of friends, or I don't know, in another area or another state, it would be different. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like talking from Massachusetts bubbles, right?
Yeah, that definitely. I
Yeah.
think that's something people don't consider either too. It's just like kind
But
of your frame of reference.
yeah, but one thing I noticed also is that's interesting. It's like not only my perspective of the countries I visit or US Americans, but the way they look at a Brazilian, like putting me in their perspective. It's also really interesting because, well, for instance, in France, I guess everybody knew that we speak Portuguese in Brazil. And here in the US, people
That's
usually
like
talk in Spanish with me. Like when I say, yeah, I'm Brazilian, they say, yeah, buenos dias, hola. And I was like, it's funny, but yeah, usually people think that we speak Spanish. And I can understand that because all the other countries in South America basically speak Spanish. Brazil is the only one that was colonized by Portugal. Um, so I understand that, but it's really interesting. And also when people ask me things, basic things like if I dance, if I samba, if I play soccer, or all the stereotypes.
yeah.
But it's different. Like the stereotypes in France, they think they're like we're really poor country that we probably don't have good schools or we have like old cars and this is the perspective. I don't know if we're closer here, US and Brazil, but I think in the US, people knows better. I mean, still think that we speak Spanish, but knows better that we are like a huge country, and yeah, we have schools. There are a lot of rich people in Brazil. Yeah, we love soccer, and yeah, we're the best in the world, but not everybody loves soccer and
Yeah.
plays soccer, me included.
Yeah. I mean that there is that dynamic of like we do know that like even big countries have like impoverished areas. Like in Brazil, there's the favela, which we've talked about. For the listeners that don't know, do you want to really explain like the history of the favela? Because before you talked to me about it, I honestly did not know how that all came to be.
Okay, but before that, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was your impression about Brazil, like before you met me, for instance? Like,
Hmm.
what
You
did
know,
you
I
know about Brazil?
to be honest, I didn't know they spoke Portuguese.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did not know. And also, it's just like after seeing, because most of what I knew was that there was, I'm not sure. Actually, this is something I never asked you about. Is there like cartels and such in Brazil? There is.
Yeah, like
Okay.
drug cartels.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Okay. That
There's
I
a
was.
huge one that like it's the most powerful one. It's
Is it like
called
the Rio de Janeiro cartel or something?
yeah, no, no, actually this one, the biggest one is in São Paulo. It's Pacific,
Something.
it's called.
Okay. Yeah. To be honest, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like Mexico and like completely run by cartels, or if because I've seen many clips of like the cartel fighting Brazilian police. I don't know if the Brazilian army fights them too, but I know the Brazilian police has many encounters.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Sad but true.
yes, very sad. I think that's something we should talk about, like the dynamics of that in the country, because that's something we see a lot of gang violence in the U.S., but it's almost like uh, auctioned off into certain areas because when you go into suburbs and stuff, you don't
Yeah,
really see that as much.
yeah. I think it's
Um,
the same
Same with
dynamic of
Brazil.
the cities and towns and the suburbs. I guess like um well, poor people usually use sorry, you can edit there. Well, everywhere whenever there's like rich people, there are also poor people. So the poor people,
Exactly.
they're always being pushed away from the center. I mean, that was the dynamic of the cities. Now I think it's changing, but it's the same in Brazil and in the big cities, it's the same. I mean, the
Mhm.
story is about the favelas is that well, Brazil was colonized by Portugal and also had like a very strong participation in the slaving Africans and slaving people. So I think this is the second after the U.S. Brazil was the one that brought a lot of Africans to be slaved in a in the colonies. But then, like in the 19th century, when slavery was ended, they just like they didn't do. We didn't have any plan for the people. Like they didn't have an education. They wouldn't get paid to any job because they were slaves before, and they didn't have where to go. Like they didn't have houses or anything, so they were living around the cities, like in the streets and all that. And then the police came, and I mean, it was. I'm just summarizing it, but of course, it's
Yeah.
very complex
Oh yeah.
history. But they went up to the hills where we didn't you didn't have to pay for rent or I mean the mountains. So they started to build their own houses and they started to live there. So that's when started the favelas. I mean, and,
Oh, okay.
it's still growing. Like some favelas in Rio, for instance, they have like 3 million inhabitants
Wow.
only in one favela. So it's it's a city, right? A big city, and that's why it's so huge in Brazil. And
Wow.
it shows a lot the inequalities because in the
Hmm.
same neighborhood, if you have a favela and like the richest neighborhood in Rio, for instance, you can see like from your window the favelas, and the favelas can see them from their windows, the rich neighborhood. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's like that's a whole thing to. It's almost like a paradigm is like the two opposites of the culture
yeah,
are like
exactly.
staring each other down with just like a valley in between, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true, and that's sad. And it means it shows the like visually shows the inequality in the cities and in the country, which is very high. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the story of the favelas. But then imagine you have no job, you have no house, but you have family and you have to eat and you have to provide.
Then you have to support them some way.
Yeah,
So it's just
so
like,
you start selling drugs.
mhm. I think that's a
And
interesting
that's yeah.
dynamic.
And that's
It's
why I think many people think that in favelas only drug dealers are living there, but actually the population is like
a lot of lower working class, and
yeah, exactly, working class, and of course there's drug traffic, but I mean,
it's not the
always
entire
had, yeah,
population.
no,
It's
not at all, not at all. I mean, not even 5%.
yeah.
So
And so I'll go back to your question about what I knew about Colombia before, and I actually didn't know that much. I knew that there,
Brazil, not Colombia.
or why did I
That's
say Colombia? I don't know why I said that.
because it's also a nice country,
Yeah.
sunny, and yeah, I can say
Wow, I feel so dumb for saying that.
that. That's okay.
Brazil. I knew that the Olympics almost got held there, or did get held there.
Yeah, they
but
did.
there's a problem with the river. Um, so I knew that there's rich parts, but I thought there was a huge problem with poverty because of the whole river issue that happened. Because it had to do something with dumping trash in a river, and that's why they had to like hold off like a few weeks for the or there was like a chemical spill or something. I'm not sure exactly what
Yeah,
it
yeah, that
was.
was in Rio. I think it was 2016.
Something like that. And the Summer Olympics were supposed to be held there,
Yeah, but they
and
were at the
yeah,
end. Were yeah.
it just got like postponed or something, right? Because they were going to use the river for the rowing or whatever
Oh
events
yeah,
that
yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. I remember that story, but I don't remember what happened after. But I know we Rio hold the Olympics. I think it was 2016, but yeah, we have a lot of this. I mean, the pollution, especially in São Paulo, is like horrible. And I mean, it's the largest city in the South America. It's like around 12 million people living in the same area. So that's,
That's a lot.
yeah, and a lot of cars and, well, yeah.
What well, I think you see the same problems in places like New York City. Not maybe not as like blown up in terms of because there's a lot more nature near um, cities in Brazil, correct? In terms of like there's more forests like right next to cities that can be like polluted than what we see in like New York City, which seems like to not really have much nature anywhere near because it's just suburbs on suburbs after that.
Mm.
I could be completely wrong, but
Yeah, I think like there were small towns and a big city and they kind of grew and they met.
okay.
So they're like,
Suburbs now.
yeah, they're suburbs now.
Okay.
But it was, I mean, it was after Rio, Sao Paulo was the city that grew the most. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in our history. So Rio right now is smaller, like the population and geographically, but yeah, Sao Paulo grew because it's kind of, or yeah, it's kind of New York. It would be considered like um, New York in the U.S. and Rio would be considered L.A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Brasilia, the capital will be Washington D.C. So
So I've been to DC before, and it's like I figure in it's called Brasilia is the
yeah,
capital.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to pronounce it wrong. Um, but is it like DC has this weird dynamic in comparison to other cities that's like super, super clean in a lot of the areas
Yeah.
I've been to.
Yeah,
I assume that's the same kind of way in Brasilia.
it is. Actually, Brasilia has a funny history actually. Now. Rio was the capital of Brazil until the 60s. And then a president had a plan to move the capital to the center of the country because Rio like it's in a it's really next to the ocean. So it's strategically it's not like the best place to have a capital, economic at least and political capital. So Brasilia was constructed by nowhere. It was in the desert, like in the middle of the country. And in 5 years, they built it up all the whole city, and it has a shape of an airplane. Yeah,
That's actually awesome.
so you have like the pilot and all their names of the neighborhoods are this. Like you have the plano piloto, which is like the pilot plan, which is the middle. Yeah. And I mean, the head, it would be like where the pilot is
Is
the
that where all the rich
Congress.
people live? Oh, that's where Congress
Yeah, it's
is.
the Congress and the president office. And so it's really interesting. You can Google or
That's so funny that they put it in the shape of an airplane, though.
yeah,
That's
and actually there
wild.
are there are many pictures like from NASA and from the space that shows Brasilia and all the lights. You can see the plane. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Anyways, so Brasilia was built like from nowhere in 5 years, and then they moved the political capital to Brasilia. But it's in the middle of the desert, and they made like it's kind of, some people call it a communist plan because
Uh, okay, cool. Sorry about that. For some reason, Zoom just removed the 40-minute limit, which I don't know why they did. Why there's a 40-minute limit, but anyways.
yeah. So Brazilian. And so it was in the middle of the desert, so they built it up a lake in the middle.
Wow.
So the lake and the airplane is facing east. So you have like the south wing and the north wing, and you have the pilot plant. So all the streets and the wings, they have numbers and not names.
Okay.
It's very unusual, yeah, but it gives the same sense of Washington D.C. that like it's very clean, it's very organized, and everything was built like strategically, not like built from nowhere. Oh, here we can make a road, or no, everything was
Like
like
planned
planned,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people would say like it's kind of, in the 60s, people were saying that it was a communism plan because they made like all the buildings alike. So everybody would work there, or a politician who work there, they will have like the same apartments. And every quad, there's a good school, public school. So everybody could, well, that was the plan. It didn't work that way because there were people working, like constructors working in the city, building the city, and then when the city was ready, they said like, oh, now you can go, you can leave. And they came from all around the country and they were living there, but they couldn't afford living those buildings they built. So they started living in the suburbs. So before Brasilia was like really ready, we already had like many cities around because the workers were living there with their families.
Wow. That
So it was kind of, they say, yeah, it's a plan, it's a communism plan, but what about the poor people, the constructors, like the people that make the city?
and the fact that it got built in like 5 years.
Yeah,
No cities get built in 5 years.
that's true.
Like some giant New York's like famous for having massive buildings. Some of those buildings take so long to make.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how big is Brasilia? Is the real question. Is it like,
Yeah, o plano piloto, the one that you call it like the pilot plan, which are the wings, the real plan, like
yeah,
I think it's around, it's not even 1 million people,
okay,
but the
but still,
surround is 3 or 4 million people.
yeah.
Uh,
It's an interesting way to address workers to like make them. I mean, did they get contracted out somewhere else after that, or did they just not have jobs when the city was built? Once it
well,
was built,
because the
really.
city was built to be the political capital, to so the politicians, the president, the Congress people, they will live there, and all the ministries, everything works there politically. So they were brought from Rio to live in the city. And the constructors, they were like already living there, but in their cabins, in their cars, and like the mobiles. And
Mm-hmm.
so they went out, I mean, in the suburbs. But that's the funny thing, I mean, the sad thing. That's because they're still living there, but not using what they built.
Um,
But you had a question? I don't remember now. I'm just speaking.
oh, well, I was just talking about like how the builders, when they were done building the city, and they couldn't afford to live in the city, did they have like jobs after that? Like, did they continue being construction workers, or did they were just
I,
like out of a job at that point?
yeah, I think most of them are out of jobs. So
Wow.
they started building like the commerce, not commerce. Yeah, in their regions, in their little towns around in the suburbs, they started like constructing schools and houses for themselves.
Okay.
So, and they trying like the
So does the
economy.
government like fund stuff like that? like building schools and stuff, or is it all kind of privatized?
Oh no, it's different. Yeah, in Brazil, I mean, it's mandatory. You have public schools and public schools every town, every city, and also good public universities. I mean, the best universities are public in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I wouldn't say it's a very good system, but it's for everyone. It should be for everyone, and it should be for free.
Yeah.
And we also have a universal health system, so which is not the best one, but it's
Actually,
we
why don't
have
we
it.
go into that? Because I think it's, you told me stories about it, and it's very interesting how it works and how it's almost like a hybrid system. It's not just healthcare for all in Brazil. It's there's other routes if you're not satisfied with the healthcare for all, which I think could be an
Yeah.
interesting fix in the U.S. Honestly, but
Yeah.
that could just be me.
Yeah, I mean, Brazil is the proof that it's possible. When people say, like, oh, it's impossible to have a healthcare system in the US because it's so huge. Well, we are also huge and we have a public system. It's called SUS, it's a universal system of health. It's for everybody. But, I mean, we also have private hospitals and clinics and all this kind of stuff. So, but you also need to have like, well, not many people has it, but you have a health insurance if you like, so you can go to private hospitals or clinics. But if you can't pay for it, or if you don't have any health insurance, you can use the public system. Or if even if you have it, you can use the public system. If you can pay for a private clinic, but you choose to go to the public one, you can do that. That's for everyone. Like if you go there and you need something, and you're American, you're not Brazilian, you have the right to be like, if you have an
Taken care of.
emergency, or yeah, you have the right to be taken care of. So I'm really proud of the system. It should be better. We should work better on this and make it better. But we have it, and it's kind of getting better every year. I mean, if the government is not making anything against it, like this government right now, we have a good one. I mean, if you need an if you in an emergency, and if you go to a public hospital, you're gonna be taken care of and
Mm-hmm.
paying for nothing. So I don't think it happens here in the US. If I had
Well,
that accident and I don't have health insurance,
yeah,
I
you could be
probably,
in some deep bills.
yeah.
Because I mean, if you're life or death, they will take care of you, but you're gonna end up with thousands of
Yeah, you're
dollars
not
worth
gonna
of
die, but you have to pay a lot, like for the
yeah.
rest of your life, probably.
You know, it's interesting. I was talking about this the other day with a few friends of mine. Um, does Brazil have free college, or like, is it, do you pay for college there?
There are a lot of private colleges and universities, but we have good public colleges, very good ones. I mean, I
Yeah.
say that because I went to public colleges, three different ones, and I was 1 year international relations in a private one, and it was really good. But the public one is different. I mean, you have the chance to engage to other things. At
Mm-hmm.
least I'm interested on this. So you have like opportunities to do researches and get funded to do and to work at university. So it's kind of, it's hard to get in. I mean, not even 10% of the population in Brazil has higher education, but it does exist and it's really good.
Yeah, we
Not
were
for
talking
all.
about the dynamic of that. Makes me happy that Brazil has that, because there's a lot of countries that do. I want to say Denmark. Yeah, I could be very wrong about it. They're one of the Northern Europe countries has a
Yeah.
very, they were asked in this Michael Moore film, which, I mean, I don't mind Michael Moore, but I know plenty of people that have problems with Michael Moore. He's a documentary filmmaker
Yeah.
that is definitely left leaning, but I think he brings up a lot of good points.
Yeah.
And in his film, Where to Invade Next, it talks about how the US used to have different aspects that has been lost since like the 1940s, in terms of stuff with like how much we work and things like that. And he goes to countries that adopted the US's ideas on it and still have them today. Like in Italy, they used to they work a lot less than people in the US. They have 3 months off a year, but
Yeah.
their production rate is almost the same as the US, but we're working like 40 to 60 hours a week per
Yeah.
person. So you sort of think of that dynamic, but that's beyond the point. That's just I'm just referencing the film and what it goes into. But in the film, they talk to people. I want to say it's from Denmark. I'm not positive though, and they ask about their student debt, and they just had no idea what they were talking about. They didn't have any debt. Well, as soon as they got out of school, they got to buy a house and start a family
Yeah.
and not have that burden on their back.
Yeah.
So me and my friends, I have this idea that student debt is a form of suppression for for people that have studied for intellectual nature. So you have people that like do art degrees or do philosophy degrees where finding a job other than being a professor is not that easy.
Oh.
So if you have that dynamic of you can't find work to pay off these loans, but you went to school so you could better society in some way, shape, or form. You're being suppressed in that way because you can't get $100,000 job a year job.
Yeah.
You're stuck just trying to get by.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty, I'm sorry, my French, but
Mm-hmm.
fucked up system.
Yeah,
Because, I mean,
it
yeah, you have
honestly
a degree,
is.
and what do you do with that? Nothing. I mean,
Well, the way the
because you have to
dynamic
pay your debt.
works,
Yes. It makes
the,
no sense.
the way the dynamic works is we come to this. You only have so much you can think about in a day. There's so much emotional and mental power you can exhaust. And if your majority is worried about what you're going to eat the next day and your work on one hand, wherever you're working, then you have to worry about, oh, am I going to be able to pay rent or pay my school bill this year or
Yeah.
this month or whatever. You're too overworked on just thinking about those things along with family and relationships and all that to even think about how society is working and what we can do to make it better. So this is a form of suppression. It's gone up exponentially since the 1960s after the countercultural movement, where they saw a lot of colleges really starting to be breeding grounds for social movements or ideas for
Social
change.
democracy.
Yeah, it's actual democracy and change that people want in our culture. Some of them are fair and some of them aren't. And I mean, it's young kids, they're going to make mistakes on whether or not they are making the right decision for what they want to change because they don't know the repercussions of such thing. But they're
Yeah.
trying to make the society better.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right about I mean, I cannot imagine, you can tell me later, but when you're like 21, 22, and you already have like a huge debt,
Like $60,000.
come
It,
on, that's not, I mean, it doesn't help anything in your life, in your development, or your career, or individually is really messed up. And collective way is also really not good, because you're gonna end up doing like a job that you didn't study for, because that's the only one you could find to pay your debt.
exactly.
So
And that plays into, well, the way it plays into societies, it keeps people in power.
yeah.
And what also happens is it keeps people that like the situation as it is, and it keeps the situation the same.
Yeah.
So it's tough to think, why do we need to be paying $60,000 a person? Because I think I got a great education through my schooling, but it shouldn't. I'm not saying that the government has to pay for our school, but people like chancellors and stuff are making millions of dollars when they could make even a good salary, like $300,000, whatever. That's a very well off salary. Why are we giving like $1 million to these schools and they're building new buildings and everything? Yeah, it's to make better education, but I don't see if we're gonna be using our education, we shouldn't have to. It should be at a lower cost at least, because all this is it. We have to plan for the next 3 to 5 years on just paying this off. Let alone some people it's longer because they're just doing minimum payments, which ruins
Yeah.
your credit score also, especially if you miss one. Then
So
you
you
can't
can.
buy a house, and then you're unhappy. So
So
it could truly.
you're possibly gonna be like 10 years paying for your education.
Plenty of people are at that point. Yeah, they pay for over 10 years, and it becomes a huge burden for them. Many people.
Yeah. So why don't we tax rich people more and cover the tuitions? That would be make like it's kind of the government paying for it, but
I don't even know if we should tax rich people more. Just make them pay taxes in general instead of giving them bailouts. The
no.
tax bailouts and or tax exemptions and stuff for small business, I see that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
For companies like Amazon or Tesla that are making millions and millions of dollars or billions actually
Yeah,
a
billions.
year, and we have like Jeff Bezos with like an absurd amount of money.
Exactly.
Why
And
aren't
a
we
lot
just
of
not
people,
letting them get tax breaks?
yeah,
Just tax
exactly.
them in general.
Yeah.
And
A million of people like struggling to pay their debts and in education, which should be, I think education should be free for everyone. So
yeah, I mean, not to mention the reform we need
it's
for it in
possible,
general.
but anyways, as
Yeah,
you say, you wouldn't keep the power people in power. So
yeah. The U.S. is super complex in the fact that we're in a world of very nothing is really in your face in terms of suppression.
mm,
So when we're looking at stuff like consumerism, which has to do with corporations, there is a form of suppression called the dormant consumer. And when you talk about the dormant consumer, you start to see that all you see commercials where they're not selling. It'll be a Budweiser commercial with a horse and a dog being friends. You're like, how the hell does this have to do with fucking Budweiser? And you're just like, how? How at all? And they're selling emotion, and that's why we're in this weird state of people trying to buy stuff to make themselves happy rather than looking for human connection and experience, which actually truly make. If you're looking for fulfillment, experiences and everything, that's what you should be living a day-to-day life where you're just trying to make every day better, not looking to other things. But that's actually a thing with social media too, is it's a lie. No one's life is that good. You're not, even if you are traveling across the world,
yeah.
it's a highlight reel, and you don't want to make your life look like that highlight reel. You want to be just doing day by day. What am I going to do that makes me happy? I'm going to talk to my friends. I'm going to work and make some money and then enjoy my family. And if you don't have a family, you make friends. I don't know.
Yeah, but this way of thinking is kind of resistance. Like you're resisting all the publicity and everything that makes you feel like you have to buy some more to be happy. It's kind of hard. It should be natural and not be resistant all the time, not to like fall into this trap because it's a trap.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be like an effort, but it is. You have to like,
Well, when you're seeing this goes into why I think media literacy is so important. When you go into the dynamics of how we perceive the world, if you're getting bombarded with a certain message, even subliminally, which commercials are very good at doing, if you're bombarded with a subliminal message or a message in general, you start to see the world in a certain way. So it shapes your reality because that's how you are perceiving what's going on. That's why news is so important in terms of understanding what opinion versus fact. and all that. But when you get into this, almost people will get so much money and think, once I get rich, I'm going to be happy. And there's a difference. The difference is once you don't have to worry about money, yeah, you will be happy. But then that's when you realize you have to look for fulfillment and not material objects. What commercials do, they sell this idea of material objects equal happiness. And they ingrain this in us, especially from the 1990s until now.
Yeah. This is really complex. And it brings me another story about we were talking about Denmark. I always
Mhm.
thought this way, like, yeah, some of we're kind of shaped to believe that once I'm rich, I'm gonna be happy. But what about the countries where the people are rich? Like we're talking about Denmark. They have like a very good health system. They have public schools and really good public schools, colleges, and everything. So if you're a young person like yourself, you don't have any debt, you know you have a place to live, you know if you're in employment, the government's gonna help you. You know, like if you need to go to a clinic or a hospital, you're gonna go and not pay for anything. There's no homeless people, etc. And the highest um, index, I don't know if it's index, of alcoholic problems among youth is the highest in
In
Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of also psychological, social and psychological, like you have nothing to pursue. I don't know, you know, it's very complex because I'm not
Yeah.
like defending this, but it's a fact. They have a high level of alcoholism in their
Mhm.
society among youth. But I mean, they have everything. They don't need to worry about anything. So they just have fun, or they can do whatever whenever they want, and they know it's guaranteed that they will have like education and health
Mhm.
and a place to live.
So it almost leaves them with this sense of, I really don't need to do anything. I guess
Kind of.
that sheds a different dynamic, a positive dynamic on the idea of the American dream. Some say mobility is not that easy, even in America. It's still, if you're in a marginalized community, it is extremely, extremely hard for you to get movement, a
Exactly.
social mobility. But
That is the system
having
that
that
doesn't
dream,
allow it.
though,
Yeah.
yeah, having that dream, though, if you're someone that takes advantage of that to make you happy, it's a drive. And I mean, drive is what keeps people going. It's what makes all
Yeah.
living worth it. But there's
and
all, I mean,
and that's what make them survive in this kind of society, because
exactly.
you need to survive in the environment that you are. So, yeah, but it's something to think about. I mean, it sounds like a recipe and it's gonna work if we do that or that. But come on, you have other consequences that you're not expected, like alcoholism, and it's tricky. So that's why I
Exactly.
mean, it's comparisons are good at some level, but at others they are not very productive. So
That's a
yeah,
good
I
way
don't
to
know.
think about it, honestly. That's another thing with the, like looking at like our own society. You also have to, you start to get, when you start to break down society, you start to look for the negatives. And when you're looking for the negatives, you get to this point where you're off balance because you're not looking at any of the good things. And with many of the issues now, you really do have to look for the positive side of things and not look into just the bad things. The bad things are important and things that we need to fix, but you also have to be thankful for the positives that do come out of certain situations, which I think is something in our society that we don't see, especially with the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's being like resisting the
Mm-hmm.
temptation of just look and it's fucked up, but there are always good stuff in the middle. Yeah, you're
Exactly.
right. You should pay attention to that, but not forget about the bad ones.
Exactly.
Keep
It's
them
just
in
like
mind, but
forgiveness.
also, yeah, like you
It's like,
said, it's a matter of balance.
yeah, exactly. My point exactly. And that's honestly, when you talk about things, it's really just figuring out a balance for both sides. So where both
Yeah.
it can be um, a mutual relationship rather than a parasitic relationship, like a parasite. That's like the opposite of mutual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you knew that. I just wasn't
Yeah, it's not easy, but we should continue trying
strive
it.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we hop on a lighter note here? We got pretty deep there for a second.
Yeah, let's go back to
How
politics.
what was Chile like? What is your experience in Chile like? Were you there for long?
No, when it was many years ago, like I think I was 18. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it was. I was traveling with a friend. It was quite nice. We went to Argentina also and Buenos Aires. And yeah, I started earlier. So I did my first international trip by myself when I was 16. So
Where'd
I
you go
had a
on
lot of
that?
fun. To Europe, yeah, around. I based in England because I was doing an English course in
Mhm.
Cambridge, and it was a lovely town. And then I went around like Italy, and it was kind of fun. And after that, I was always traveling. So with my backpack, and then I started traveling by myself, like not only with friends, but just backpacking. So, and the greatest experience I had, it was when I went to Cuba by myself. And I had like this whole thing about Cuba. It's kind of a mystery, and I know some things, and I know some songs. I know a little bit about the society, the political, the government, everything. And it was still when Castro was still alive when I was there. And when I got there, it was completely different. I mean, all the things I imagined, well, some of them were true, but the others were like a kind of a reality that I couldn't. I don't know. I was always backpacking in countries like in Europe or in Brazil, and I know Brazil already, so I have nothing to expect much. Like, but I was really surprised to see that the Cuban society is really sexist. I mean, I already knew a little bit because South America in general are the countries are really sexist. And but I was really surprised, like especially because I was traveling by myself, the approaches I had as a woman was, it was all the time. Like whenever a person would ask me like, oh, you're traveling by yourself, and I said yes, if they were a man, they would instantly hit on me and ask like, why you're traveling by yourself, you shouldn't, it's dangerous. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably making it dangerous because you're a man hitting on me just because I'm by myself. So yeah, you're right. And it was extremely like it was a surprise because it was really like intense, and I didn't expect that. And whenever I was like, I was staying in people's house. So when you have a spare room in your house, you can rent it for tourists. The government allows you to rent
Yeah.
it. So I was doing that because I really wanted to have this experience very close to people. And at two times in two different houses in different towns, I had like a settled date for me because I was traveling by myself. It means that I was single. So the guys were like, actually, it was their moms. In one house, it was really funny. I was in their house and she was telling me about her son. And she asked me how old I was. And I said, I think I was 26 by the time. And the next question was, oh, you're single? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, I have my son. He doesn't live in this town, but he would really love to meet you. And I was like, oh, that would
Set
be
up.
nice too, but he's not here. So I said, yeah, nice, nice. I was trying to, I mean, to be nice with
Kind of
her
like
because I was
dodge
in
it.
her house. But then on the other day in the morning, her son was there. And they were like, they have the table and they were inviting me to lunch because they wanted to introduce the son. And I was like, is it real? And it was really weird. And then they were like, oh, he's going with you if you want to just show you around. And I was like, I think I prefer to go by myself. I didn't know, but he knows the area. He came here to meet you. And I was like, oh my God. And then I found out that they're trying to marry people like foreigners. So because if you get married, you are allowed to leave the country.
Oh,
Otherwise,
so
you cannot go.
they're not allowed to leave? I didn't know that. That's
No, I mean
crazy.
some people. I mean, right now I don't know, but back then it was 5 years or 6 years ago. They couldn't for any reason. Like they really had they do have to have like a really good reason to leave the country. They don't have passports. They cannot go around,
Wow.
travel around. So I didn't know that. And I realized that actually they tried to get married to a foreigner so they can leave.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't know if I was happy or not about it because I felt like I felt flattered for a while. I felt like, oh, I'm probably so pretty because everybody's trying to date me. But then I realized, no, they wanted my passport. It
Wow.
wasn't about me.
That's crazy. And you're just like, that's just like another target on your back. And you're just like, jeez.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was a surprise. I mean, it happened many times. And in this awkward situation, that was the most awkward one. Like having a
Yeah.
lunch with the whole family and introducing the guy. It was kind of, yeah. And they were also happy because I speak Spanish with them. So they were like, oh, Angie speaks Spanish. She understands us. We can have
Yeah.
like,
I don't even know what I would do if I was in that situation. Excuse me.
yeah. But it also happened
Jeez.
the other way because I met a German guy traveling around and it
Mm-hmm.
happened the same with him. Like a woman was trying to approach him to her daughter because yeah, that was the same thing. He was the one explaining that situation. He said like, no, it's not because they're very interested on you, it's because they want your passport. And I was like, oh, okay.
God. Did hmm. So Cuba must have been real interesting.
It was really fun. But I mean, I'm saying like this perspectives, but it was really fun. At the same time, they respect you very much. Nothing happened to me. I wasn't like
Yeah.
nothing just like this
I,
uncomfortable situations, but it was only uncomfortable, not really like a threat.
that's something to think about. That's like, well, also don't you do jujitsu too, or jujitsu or some form of self
No, I
defense?
didn't. I should. And
You
Krav
should.
Maga. And yeah,
Krav Maga, yeah.
yeah, I think I'll feel more empowered if
Oh,
I had learned.
definitely.
Yeah.
A girl that can fucking kick your ass. Yeah, I'd be terrified. I'd be like, you don't want to mess with me. I promise. No, but what do you? I think that's something. So, have you ever heard of the Zodiac Killer?
Zodiac Killer? What is that?
God, I don't remember when it was. It was like right out. It must have been the 70s. I want to say 70s or 80s. I could look it up, but I won't. Zodiac Killer was in I want to say California or San Francisco area, and he was killing a bunch of people and was sending in stuff as clues to newspaper uh, publishers and having them print the clues, and like there's a whole movie on it you should actually watch. It's literally called The Zodiac Killer. But I wonder if the US has suffered from a literal case of everyone having suffered from the mean world theory, where, because back in the US and like before this happened, you used to be able to hitchhike anywhere. That's like how the counterculture moved across the country. They would just hitchhike across the country with strangers. But
Mm,
nowadays, almost no one picks up hitchhikers. Everyone's too scared that someone that's gonna murder them or
yeah.
rape them or something. And I don't know if there's been many cases of it because now I don't think a lot of people hitchhike anymore. But
Yeah, that's
since that one incident in the 1970s or 80s or whatever it was happened, no one does that anymore. And it's just
true.
like, it's like a moral, or not a moral, but like a known thing is you never pick up hitchhikers, at
That's
least from my
interesting
experience.
because I hitchhiked a lot in Cuba, for instance. I mean, it was 5 years ago, but it's pretty recent if you can imagine. And nothing happened. I mean, just uncomfortable situations, like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very very safe. I remember I was in the. I'm sorry bringing up Cuba and making. I'm not trying to make a comparison with the U.S.
No,
I'm just
no, not
remembering
at all.
about
No,
my
it's your
own experience
experience.
of
Yeah, it's what you
hitchhiking.
have for an experience.
And then one of the houses I was in the center of Havana, I asked the woman the first day I arrived. I wanted to go out at 9 by myself to have some drinks. So I asked her, like, is it okay if I go by myself walking? Because I didn't want to take like a cab or anything. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, because I'm by myself. Is it okay if I go by myself? She said, do you mean you want to buy drugs? I was like, no, I just want to go for drinks by myself. Is it okay when I mean, if I come back at like midnight or 1 a.m.? She said, yeah, of course. Oh, I mean, there are a lot of people in the streets. They're going to try to sell you drugs, but they're not going to harm you. Just if you want, just ask for the good stuff and not the bad stuff, okay? And I was like, my concern was completely different than hers. And I
Yeah.
realized like she was really like amazed by what I was really asking. I was asking like, is it danger for a single woman alone in the streets at night? But she was kind of, what do you mean? Like, what is dangerous? No, I mean, and this is in the middle of the Havana. So
Wow.
it was, yeah, it was quite a surprise. And that happened. A lot of people came and said like, hey, marijuana or something. And I said just like, no, thank you. And they would just like leave you alone. So
Oh, that's good. That's like refreshing because I feel like there's a dynamic of some areas you definitely don't want to go around as a
yeah,
single woman in the U.S.
exactly.
But
In Brazil, I
it
would never do that.
definitely not. It's just weird that like there's different countries and different societies where it's just like no one's gonna bother them,
Yeah.
and because there's bad people everywhere, but the likeliness
Yeah.
of something happening, I don't
But the
know.
odds are different.
Exactly, 100%. And there's definitely different repercussions and laws in different places too, or different social standards that play into it.
Yeah, that's true.
I figured out why I said Colombia earlier. It's because we were talking about the cartels, and
Yeah.
cocaine and Colombia kind of
Okay.
go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So that's why that I said that. So I apologize. But we talked about cartels, and I immediately thought
No
of
problem.
what's his name? Who's the big Pablo Escobar in
Pablo
Colombia?
Escobar.
Yeah, you should watch the show Narcos. It's really good.
I did the first
Oh, you did?
season.
What'd you
Yeah,
you like
I
it?
did. Then Pablo Escobar died, and I stopped
Yeah,
watching. And
I feel like
I don't
that's when
know
a
why.
lot of people dropped off.
Yeah, I thought it was the end, but it wasn't. So I was like, okay, Pablo was enough.
Yeah, it's a very intense
Benito.
show.
It is. And the actor that plays Pablo Escobar is Brazilian.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and everybody was teasing him about his accent, Spanish accent, because it's kind of he's speaking Portuguese to us.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Spanish speaker, they're like, yeah, that's weird, Spanish. Like, he's Brazilian. He's a very
Yeah.
good actor, but he's Brazilian. He was
Is there?
but also the director is Brazilian. So
Oh, okay.
at
Is
least
there
the
a
first and second season
big like film presence out of film or like TV production
in Brazil.
in Brazil?
Yeah. Nowadays, yes, we have many good movies, and they're
Okay.
most like they're kind of investments. The government invests a little. I mean, I would say a lot, but recently no. But in the past, they're investing a lot in the national movies. And I can send you some that are really interesting. There's one Bakurao. It's a new one. It was released like 2 or 1 year ago. It was supposed to be nominated for the Oscar as an
Uh,
international. Yeah, it's a really good one. It shows the
does it have
society.
subtitles?
Probably, I will find with subtitles.
There's
Or you
no way.
can learn, you know, a little bit of Spanish. You can pretend it's Spanish and not Portuguese.
Yeah, I don't think that'd go too well. I was pretty bad at Spanish.
No, but I mean, we do have some good movies. It's not like an industry like in the US, but we're trying to like show a little bit of our culture through the movies as well.
Mhm. I mean, there's not much that compares to the Hollywood system of the
Oh yeah,
U.S.
that's true.
I mean, there's Nollywood and there's Bollywood. Nollywood's very is coming up now, but Bollywood's kind of the only real huge contender
That can
um,
compete like with Hollywood.
in terms of the amount of output of
Yeah.
high priced films. Because I mean, films nowadays, we're talking huge studio ones, are in the hundreds of millions of dollars just to produce one film for
Yeah.
those.
But it will
But
sell a lot. So
oh yeah, I mean, then well, depends on it. You don't know until it's out because some movies. Oh
well, but you kind of know if you have like Brad Pitt or
oh yeah, if
Matt
you have a
Damon, you
big
know
yeah,
it's gonna sell, you know.
that's true. I'd love to work for like James Franco or Seth Rogen because their budgets are definitely like not nearly. They definitely don't spend as much as the other films. I feel like they might, but most of their films are pretty funny and like lower budget. I feel like so it's just like
And
the
they're
amount of cash.
interesting movies, yeah.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
This Is the End might be one of my favorite comedy films of all time, other than Anchorman.
Anchorman, never watch it.
That's a classic. That's a classic comedy one that you definitely should watch.
I'm writing it down.
Going
Because sometimes in your life, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch a movie, and you spend like 15 minutes just looking for a
through
movie. So yeah,
Netflix.
I have a little list. In this case, I won't waste my time just looking for.
Yeah, that's
Like,
how I want to comprise a list of like my favorite film of all time is Good Will Hunting. Have you seen that? I already told
no,
you. I definitely told you to watch that film. It's about therapy actually, and it's really good. It's got Robin Williams and isn't that it might no it's isn't that no hold on I this is something I have to look up
yeah.
because
What's the name
uh
again?
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, it's Matt Damon and Robin Williams. Ben Affleck's in it. Or
I
yeah,
don't think I watch it.
it's very good.
Yeah. Did
It
you
has to
watch
do.
Interstellar?
Oh, that was a
Yeah.
great film. That was a
Yeah,
very
that's a
good
great.
film.
Yeah, it's a
Or
great.
Passengers was another one.
Yeah.
I like those
I
sci-fi
remember this movie
ones.
because I was listening to the soundtrack, and I think it's amazing. Hans Zimmer is the guy that made the Interstellar soundtrack, the whole
Oh,
soundtrack.
okay.
Really good. It's really good. I mean, I like it.
Interstellar is the one with the black hole, right?
The Black Hole? What do you mean? Like the movie? The story of the movie?
Yeah, it's like they have like sorry, spoiler alert for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Um who's the guy? Who's the main character?
Matthew
Um
McConaughey.
yeah, Matthew McConaughey is like driving through the cornfields and there's the dust storms and he goes
Yeah.
into the black hole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a spoiler. He goes into the
That
black.
is a huge yeah, that is a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sorry.
it's a really good movie. Not only the actors and the soundtrack that is amazing, but the the pictures and everything is really nice. The story is also nice.
The story is really well done.
Yeah,
And like
makes you think.
oh
You have to watch Dark.
dark. Yeah. Oh yeah, you were telling me about
Yeah, it's on
that.
Netflix. It's really good, and also the soundtrack is really good.
Yeah. Have you seen on my tongue? It's not Passengers. It's another one of the space ones.
100.
No, not the 100. It's not. I don't think it's on Netflix. I'm not sure though. I can't really think of it right now. I'll have to get back to you on it. But it Passengers was really good. I don't know what's the other one I'm thinking of. It's not Interstellar.
Is it Passenger the one with
Jennifer or no.
Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah,
Yeah.
she's in it, and I don't know who the other actor is.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but they're like in a spaceship and he wakes up and
Yeah,
yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
and he doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good film. This is gonna bother me because there's one more space film that's really good. It has maybe it was Interstellar. Yeah, it was. I'm not. Yeah, I can't decide.
Yeah,
Like
all good.
we'll
So
come back to it or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But
I think we're almost an hour and a half now.
oh well, yeah, we are. I mean, if you want to wrap it up, I think we've had a pretty good conversation.
It
I don't know
was.
if
We
there's
have so many
anything.
things to talk about, but we can do
Honestly,
a second one.
yeah, I'm
I
totally
need to make
down.
some topics because I think we travel from history to movies in 2 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, we kind of just like we're all over the place, and this is what I mean. This is the stuff I live for. Is just like talking to people and listening to their stories and seeing where they come from.
Yeah, it would
So,
be nice to bring someone else to share also, or like
oh
commenting.
yeah,
Or, yeah.
and maybe see like if we get someone else that is an immigrant that is living in America now, dealing with COVID and everything, just like
Yeah, we
us.
didn't talk about this actually. We talk about so
Honestly, we
many
did.
things.
That's like the whole reason we have jobs where we do right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but I would say yeah, we should have more opinion about immigration than just me. I think
Yeah.
it's fair.
Oh yeah, totally. But I mean, you have a different perspective than a lot of people because you haven't just come to the U.S. You have been all around, which is a lot different
Yeah.
than a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. And I have like documents and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier when than if you're undocumented and I mean being an immigrant and stuff. But I
Yeah.
mean many many ways. But it was a good thing.
Yeah. All right. So while we wrap it up, then I'll hope everyone has a good day and remember balance, love, and respect. And have a good one, Deborah. Thanks for coming on.
And wear a mask, please.
Yeah, wear a
Thank you,
mask.
Jay. It was so nice talking with you.
All righty.
I see you.